Welcome back. I'm here with Dr. Tim, who is a chemical engineer. He's going to educate us a little bit about the Line 5 pipeline. Thank you for being with us, Dr. Tim.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. It's always interesting to have a TV crew in my home.
Yes, that's a new experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, set the stage for us. The Line 5 pipeline is something that we've heard a lot about in recent times. Worries that perhaps it's not built to be sustained this long. Take us back in a history lesson to the building of this by Bechtel and sort of how it came to be.
And that's a great introduction to this, because I really, that's one of the things that's made me very interested in volunteering all the time I have on this project. Is it's really been a history detective thing as much as an engineering project. Been a lot of engineering, but a lot of it has just been trying to figure it out and how they did it. The basic question of how in the world did they do that really intrigued me right from the beginning. And I can't say that I have all the answers, but way back when, as demonstrated by documentation from the original agreements, the Lakehead Pipeline Company that built this thing had to get a permit from the Michigan Conservation Commission in order to construct it. And so it was originally intended to carry oil from Alberta to Sarnia, and to do that with a very small capacity by today's standards. It was designed originally to carry 120,000 barrels a day.
How much does it carry now?
540 is the nameplate capacity. So obviously there have been a few upgrades along the ways, and that's one of the concerns.
How do those upgrades, or how does it go from being built to carry this amount to all of a sudden carrying 550?
Well, the main thing is, if you want to put more fluid through a pipe, you have to have more pumping stations. You can't just jack the pressure up forever, the pipe will blow. So typically on a U.S. oil line, about every 30 miles, they put in a new pumping station that boosts the pressure back up. And so what they did, it was originally designed to have 4 pumping stations, and now it has 12. At one point, according to my research, it had 19. But there was some new technology that came in that allowed them to cut the number of pumping stations back. So primarily they just added more pumps to the whole thing.
Gotcha. What is a pumping station?
Oh, you looked at one in Mackinac City there today. It's a big building with a bunch of valves and pumps, and these are big pumps. These typical pump station for this line would probably have 4 pumps, each pump of about 2,000 horsepower. These are pretty big things. And obviously they have the capability of hurting the line if they're misoperated.
So I'm sorry, I'm trying to understand, wrap my mind around it. Do they slow down the pressure, or do they somehow enforce the pipeline?
What happens is, you put the oil into the pipeline at one end and you pressure it up to a pressure of, say, 700 psi, which would be typical of a pump station on this line. As it flows down the line, friction causes the pressure to fall. It's just like your car. You got to keep putting power if you're going to keep going. Okay. Well, so after about 40 miles, the pressure has fallen to a low enough pressure where the oil doesn't want to flow again, so then you insert another one of these big pump stations in the line.
Okay, that makes more sense. What about what the pipelines are made out of?
Oh, that pipelines like this are very typically made out of just very basic grade of steel. The pipeline under the Straits is made out of about the same steel that the coat hangers in your closet are made out of. Oh. And the rest of it is just slightly stronger steel. But it's very, very basic carbon steel. And the reason for that is typically the less alloying steel has, the more corrosion resistant it is, and they wanted this steel to be corrosion resistant, but it's still steel and it still rusts.
Is there anything that goes on top of this steel to make it more anti-corrosion?
Oh, absolutely. There are 2 systems, really. First of all, there are the coatings, and just like your car, just like anything else, if you want steel to live in the environment, you've got to put paint on it. And this this pipeline has a coating that depends on where you are, but under the straits, it's a coating of asphalt emulsion and then asphalt on top of that. This is very, very similar material to the roofing tar that hot mop roofers use to put roofs on commercial buildings. It's not an exotic material at all, it's cheap. And so it's got a layer of roofing tar that's mopped on the pipe hot and a couple layers of fiberglass cloth under the straits. And what's happening under the straits is clearly you can see the fiberglass cloth is coming out off the pipe. You can't really tell how much of the bare metal is exposed.
To my understanding, the Kalamazoo River flooding had the same thing happen to it, where the anti-corrosion layer was starting to peel off, and that's what resulted in that pipeline failure.
That's exactly correct. However, one interesting thing about that is the Kalamazoo pipeline, Enbridge Line 6B, it was a much newer pipeline. It was, I don't know, 10, 15 years newer, and they changed coating technology in that time. They went from the hot mop asphalt or coal tar, it could be coal tar in some places, to essentially wrapping the pipe with polyethylene tape, like electrical tape. And here's an instance where newer technology didn't work as well as the older technology. So that's why that pipeline failed, is this polyethylene wrap just didn't keep the water out. And it was a very bad technology, and there's a lot of pipes still in the ground that had that technology.
Another concern is the infrastructure of the pipeline, making sure that it has the support underneath it that it needs to not break or bend or have any kind of malfunctions like that. What do you think about Line 5's infrastructure?
Well, of course, where the pipe, the 600 and some miles of 30-inch pipe that are buried, that has perfect support under it. That's, it's laying in the dirt. And that's what was intended for the Straits pipeline, but was never accomplished. And so right from the beginning, there were several gaps under the pipeline where when they put the pipe down, the bed that they put it on wasn't flat enough. But since that time, the very strong currents in the straits that come from storms have washed a lot of soil out from under the pipeline. And so there are two figures to remember. In the easement for the straits crossing, the pipeline was limited to no unsupported span greater than 75 feet. And that requirement has been broken very many times. There also, in the engineering documents that I've researched, there was a statement that at 140-foot unsupported span, this structure wasn't stable. And there have been a number of times when spans as big as that have been allowed to develop and where perhaps the pipe has been bent. So there's some real concerns about the lack of support, and that's still going on. Enbridge has got to put a bunch more supports in this summer.
You said that. You mentioned to me before this that there were originally 4 supports that Enbridge requested to put in to reinforce the pipeline's infrastructure. Then all of a sudden it was 15. Now it's looking like maybe 20 or 22.
Well, what the deal was is that the pipeline, Enbridge did their diving inspection that they do, or remote operated vehicle inspection, and they found 4 spans that were longer than the 75-foot mandate. But they also found something like 15, that may not be the exact figure, where the pipeline appeared to be washing out and it was probably going to need more support soon. So they went into the state of Michigan and asked for a permit for not only the 4 spans that they needed to put in immediately, but also the other 15 or so that they thought they would need soon. The state was a little miffed because they'd been told in 2014, apparently, by Enbridge that this pipeline wasn't going to need any more support. So when Enbridge came back in 2016 and says we need 4 right now and we probably need another 15, the state did not give them permission for the 15. They did put in the 4 last fall. And now I've heard, I haven't confirmed this yet, that the number of 15 has now come up to 22 that Enbridge needs to put in. So they're clearly the bottom of the straits is unstable and this pipeline is continually being challenged.
Thank you, Dr. Tim. We have to go to a short break right now, but when we come back, we'll have more to discuss on the Line 5 pipeline.